March 14, 2012. Ron Decker was 61 years old. He stood in the machine shed on his dairy farm outside Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and looked at the 1998 New Holland 8970 that had turned over every morning for 14 years. The tractor had 14,200 hours on it. The paint was worn off the fenders where his boots had scraped climbing in and out twice a day. The seat cushion had a tear along the left side that he'd covered with duct tape in 2007. The hydraulic lines showed surface rust, but no leaks. The engine started on the first revolution, even at 16 below zero. His son, Michael, was 34. He stood next to his father with a laptop open, showing auction results from farms in 3 states. Tractors with newer model years, better fuel economy numbers, cleaner cabs, higher resale values. Michael had printed out a spreadsheet. He had talked to 2 dealers. He had run financing scenarios. The 8970 was worth maybe $22,000 at auction. A newer machine from a different manufacturer, 200 horsepower, full warranty, better technology, could be financed with the trade-in and $12,000 down. The payment would be manageable. The fuel savings would cover part of it. Everything on the spreadsheet made sense. Ron didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He put his hand on the hood of the 8970. The metal was cold. He said he'd think about it. If you've spent years making decisions that outlast the season they were made in, you understand what it means to let go of what still works. The cost isn't always clear at first. Sometimes it takes a decade to show up. This channel is for farmers and equipment operators who measure choices in years, not months, who understand that what works tomorrow often looks worse today than what breaks next year. If that's how you think, subscribe. We tell stories about the consequences that only become visible later. Ron Decker's father bought the farm in 1967, 160 acres, 40 milking cows, a barn that needed a new roof and got one in 1971. Ron grew up pulling calves in February and fixing equipment that had to last until the next check cleared. His father taught him that equipment was a tool, not a statement. You bought what you could service. You kept it running as long as it made economic sense. You didn't chase fashion. Ron married in 1979. He and his wife, Carol, took over the farm in 1986 when his father's back gave out. They added 80 acres in 1991. They upgraded the milking parlor in 1995. They bought the 8970 in 1998, used with 1,800 hours on it from a dealer in Sheboygan. It cost $38,000. Ron financed half. He paid it off in 4 years. The 8970 was a workhorse. It didn't have a fancy cab. It didn't have GPS or automated hydraulics. It had a mechanical fuel injection system that could be adjusted with hand tools. It had a transmission that didn't require computer diagnostics. It had an engine that could be rebuilt by any competent mechanic with access to parts. Ron used it for everything: plowing, planting, spreading manure, pulling wagons, baling hay. It ran in mud. It ran in snow. It ran through summers that hit 98 degrees and winters that hit 20 below. By 2012, the 8970 had been on the farm for 14 years. It had 14,200 hours. Ron had replaced the clutch once. He had replaced the alternator twice. He had replaced the starter once. He had done regular oil changes, filter changes, and grease points every week. The hydraulic pump was original. The transmission was original. The engine had never been opened. Michael grew up on the farm, but he didn't stay. He went to college in Madison. He studied business. He worked in Milwaukee for 6 years in supply chain management. He met a woman from Oshkosh. They had 2 kids. He came back to the farm in 2009 when Ron had a heart scare that turned out to be nothing serious but made everyone think about succession. Michael wanted to modernize. He believed in data. He believed in efficiency metrics. He believed that if newer equipment saved fuel, reduced labor hours, and increased yield through better precision, the investment paid for itself. He wasn't wrong about the math. He was just measuring over 5 years instead of 15. In early 2012, Michael started researching tractor options. He found a dealer 40 minutes away that carried a different brand. The dealer had a 2012 model, 200 horsepower, Tier 4 emissions compliant, full digital display, GPS ready, climate-controlled cab with air ride seat, automated hydraulics, better fuel economy than the 8970. The dealer offered a trade-in value of $22,000 for the 8970. The new tractor was listed at $78,000. With the trade-in and $12,000 down, the loan would be $44,000 over 7 years. Monthly payment, $620. Michael built the case over 3 weeks. He showed Ron the fuel savings, estimated at $1,800 per year based on hours of operation. He showed Ron the maintenance savings, newer machine, fewer breakdowns, warranty coverage for 3 years. He showed Ron the resale value. The 8970 was only going to depreciate further, while a 2012 model would hold value better. He showed Ron the comfort factor, better cab, less fatigue, easier on aging joints. Ron listened. He didn't argue with the numbers. He asked one question: what happens after the warranty expires? Michael said they'd deal with that in 3 years. By then, the tractor would still be under-houred. They could trade it again if needed, or keep it and maintain it like they did the 8970. Ron asked another question: what happens if the dealer goes out of business? Michael said the dealer had been there for 12 years. It wasn't going anywhere. Ron asked a third question: what happens if the parts aren't available? Michael said the manufacturer had a national parts network. Everything was digitized. You could order online. Ron didn't ask any more questions. On March 14, 2012, he stood in the shed and put his hand on the hood of the 8970. He said he'd think about it. Carol told him that night that it was Michael's farm now, whether the papers said so or not. Michael was doing the labor. Michael was learning the cows. Michael was making the decisions that would carry the farm forward. If Michael thought the new tractor made sense, maybe it did. Maybe the 8970 had given them everything it was going to give. Maybe it was time. Ron didn't sleep well. He got up at 4:30 and went out to the shed. He started the 8970. It turned over on the first try. He let it idle for 10 minutes. The engine sounded smooth. No knocking, no missing. No smoke from the exhaust. He shut it off and went back inside. On March 19, 2012, Ron told Michael to make the deal. Michael called the dealer that afternoon. They arranged the trade-in for March 24th. The 8970 would go to auction. The new tractor would be delivered April 2nd in time for spring field work. Ron didn't go with Michael to drop off the 8970. He said he had work in the barn. Michael loaded the tractor onto a trailer and hauled it to the dealer. The dealer's crew unloaded it, did a walk-around inspection, noted the hours and condition, and moved it to the back lot. Michael signed the paperwork. The 8970 was no longer theirs. It sold at auction on April 7, 2012, for $22,400. A farmer from Waupun bought it. His name was Dale Voss. He ran a smaller operation, 90 acres, beef cattle, some corn and hay. He needed a reliable tractor that he could maintain himself. He didn't want electronics. He didn't want complexity. He wanted something that would start in January and pull a plow in April. The 8970 fit. The new tractor arrived at the Decker farm on April 2, 2012. It was bright, it was clean, it smelled like new upholstery and fresh paint. The cab was quiet, the seat adjusted 6 ways. The digital display showed fuel economy in real time. The hydraulics responded to touch. Michael spent 2 hours going through the controls with the delivery driver. Ron watched from the shed door. The first season went well. The tractor performed exactly as advertised. Fuel economy was better. The cab was comfortable. Michael ran it for spring planting, summer haying, and fall harvest. No problems. No breakdowns. The warranty covered one minor hydraulic fitting that leaked in July. The dealer sent a technician out, fixed in 30 minutes. The second season, 2013, was the same. The tractor ran clean. Hours accumulated. Maintenance was minimal. Michael was confident. Ron said less and less about equipment decisions. The third season, 2014, started fine. But in late June, during second cutting, the tractor began losing power under load. It would run fine at idle and under light work, but when Michael engaged the PTO and pushed into a full swath, the engine would hesitate. He brought it back to the shed, checked the fuel filters, checked the air intake. Everything looked fine. He called the dealer. The dealer sent a technician. The technician plugged in a diagnostic computer. The screen showed a code, EGR valve malfunction. The exhaust gas recirculation system, part of the Tier 4 emissions compliance, was clogged. It needed to be cleaned or replaced. The technician said it was a common issue on tractors running in dusty conditions. He could clean it for now, but it would likely need replacement within a year. Cleaning took 3 hours. Cost $450. The tractor was back in the field the next day. In August 2014, the same code appeared. This time, cleaning didn't work. The EGR valve needed replacement. The part was on back order. Estimated arrival, 3 weeks. Michael called 2 other dealers. Same story. The part was nationally back-ordered due to high failure rates across the model line. The tractor sat for 3 weeks during the end of corn silage season. Michael rented a tractor from a neighbor to finish the work. Rental cost, $900. The part arrived in September. Installation took 4 hours. Cost, $2,800. The warranty had expired in April. In 2015, the tractor developed a new problem. The digital display began freezing intermittently. Sometimes it would reboot on its own. Sometimes it wouldn't. When the display was frozen, the automated hydraulics defaulted to manual mode, which worked, but defeated the purpose of the system. Michael brought it to the dealer. The technician said it was likely a software issue. He updated the firmware, charged $220. The problem returned in 3 weeks. Michael brought it back. The technician said it might be a wiring harness issue. He traced the wiring, found nothing obvious, charged $300 for diagnostic time. The problem continued. By late 2015, Michael stopped bringing it in. He learned to reboot the system manually when it froze. It was annoying, but manageable. In 2016, the transmission began slipping under heavy load. Michael noticed it first while pulling a manure spreader up a grade. The engine would rev, but the tractor wouldn't pull. He brought it to the dealer. The technician ran diagnostics. The computer showed no codes. He test drove it, couldn't replicate the problem, charged $150. The slipping got worse. By August 2016, it happened multiple times per week. Michael brought it back. This time, the technician said it was likely the torque converter. Replacement cost, $6,200. Michael asked if there was another option. The technician said no. It was an integrated system. You couldn't rebuild it. You had to replace the entire unit. Michael didn't have $6,000 available in August. He needed that cash for feed costs going into winter. He decided to wait until spring. He drove the tractor carefully, avoided heavy loads when possible. In October 2016, the torque converter failed completely. The tractor moved forward in first gear only. Everything else was gone. Michael called the dealer. The dealer said the part was on back order again. Estimated arrival, 6 to 8 weeks. The tractor sat in the shed from October 2016 through January 2017. The part arrived in February 2017. Installation took 2 days. Cost $6,800 with labor. Michael paid it. The tractor ran for 3 months. In May 2017, the EGR valve failed again. Same code, same back order. This time the part took 9 weeks to arrive. Cost $3,100. Ron didn't say much during these years. He helped Michael with the workarounds. He drove the tractor when it was running. He stood in the shed when it wasn't. He watched the repair bills accumulate. He watched Michael's frustration grow. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just worked. In late 2017, Michael started researching what the tractor was worth. He found auction results for similar models, similar hours, similar years. The values were falling. Tractors that sold for $60,000 in 2014 were selling for $38,000 in 2017. The emissions problems were becoming known. Buyers were wary. Michael listed the tractor privately in early 2018. He asked $35,000, no calls. He dropped it to $32,000. One call. The buyer looked at it, asked about the repair history, and walked away. In April 2018, the digital display failed completely. The screen went black. It wouldn't reboot. The dealer said the entire display module needed replacement. Cost $4,700. Lead time 12 weeks. The part was discontinued. They'd have to source it from another dealer's inventory if available. Michael didn't order the part. He parked the tractor in the back of the shed, He borrowed a tractor from a neighbor for spring planting. He started looking for a replacement. Dale Voss, the farmer from Wapun who bought the 8970 at auction in 2012, used it every season. He did the same maintenance Ron had done: oil changes, filters, grease points, visual inspections. The tractor never failed him. It started every morning. It pulled every load. In 2015, he replaced the alternator. In 2017, he replaced a hydraulic line that had cracked from age. In 2018, he rebuilt the clutch. Total repair costs from 2012 to 2018, $3,100. By 2018, the 8970 had 19,000 hours on it. The engine was still original, the transmission was still original, the hydraulic pump was still original. Dale had put nearly 5,000 hours on it in 6 years. He used it harder than Ron had. It didn't matter. The machine kept working. In August 2018, Dale ran into Michael at a feed mill in Fond du Lac. They talked for a few minutes. Dale mentioned he was thinking about adding another tractor. His operation was growing. He'd picked up a lease on 40 more acres. Michael asked what Dale was looking for. Dale said something reliable, something he could maintain, something like the 8970. Michael asked if Dale still had the 8970. Dale said yes. It was still running. Just turned over 19,000 hours. Still started every morning. Michael asked if Dale would ever consider selling it. Dale said he hadn't thought about it. Why? Michael told him the truth. The new tractor had been a mistake. It had cost more in repairs than it had saved in fuel. It was sitting in the shed, unusable. He needed something that worked. Dale said he'd think about it. In September 2018, Dale called Michael. He said he'd sell the 8970 for $28,000. It was worth more to him than that, but he understood Michael's situation. He remembered Ron from years back. They'd met at a Farm Bureau meeting in the 1990s. Ron had helped Dale's father with a hay baler repair once. Didn't charge him, just did it because it needed doing. Michael told Ron about the offer. Ron asked what the 8970 was worth at auction now. Michael checked recent sales. Tractors with similar hours were selling for $22,000 to $24,000. Ron said buy it. Michael called Dale the next day. They agreed on $28,000. Michael borrowed the money from the bank. On September 18, 2018, Dale delivered the 8970 back to the Decker farm. It had 19,200 hours on it. The paint was more worn, the seat had a new tear, the hydraulic lines showed more rust. But the engine started on the first revolution. Ron walked out to the shed when Dale was unloading. He didn't say anything. He just stood there. Dale handed him the keys. Ron held them for a moment. Then he climbed into the cab. The seat felt familiar. The controls felt familiar. He started the engine. It sounded the same. Michael sold the 2012 tractor at auction in October 2018 for $18,000. Total loss on the purchase after trade-in value, financing costs, and repair bills, $41,000 over 6 years. The 8970 is still on the Decker farm. As of spring 2024, it has 23,800 hours. Ron is 73 now. Michael is 46. They both drive it. It still starts every morning. They replaced the water pump in 2020. They replaced a steering cylinder in 2022. They rebuilt the hydraulic pump in 2023. Total repair costs from 2018 to 2024, $4,900. The tractor has now been back on the farm for nearly 6 years. It has logged another 4,600 hours since Michael bought it back from Dale. That's more hours than the 2012 tractor accumulated in its entire time on the farm. The 8970 has never sat idle for more than a day due to mechanical failure. It has never required a back-ordered part. It has never needed a diagnostic computer to identify a problem. Michael doesn't talk about the 2012 tractor anymore. He doesn't talk about fuel economy projections or resale value charts. He talks about what works. He talks about what lasts. He talks about what you can fix when it breaks. Ron doesn't talk about being right. He never did. He just drives the 8970 when it's his turn. He does the maintenance. He keeps it running. Sometimes, on cold mornings in February, he'll start the engine and let it idle while he stands in the shed door, watching the exhaust rise in the frozen air. The sound is the same as it was in 1998, the same as it was in 2012, the same as it is now. Carol still manages the books. She knows what the farm spent on equipment over the past 12 years. She knows what they could have spent. She doesn't lecture, she just reminds Michael, when he starts looking at something new, to think about 10 years from now, not 10 months. The farm is still operating, 160 acres, 80 more leased, 40 milking cows, same as 1967. The barn still has the roof from 1971. The 8970 is parked in the same machine shed it left in 2012, the same spot, the same angle. Ron backs it in the same way every time. Dale Voss bought another tractor in 2019, a 1995 New Holland 8670. He's still running it. He calls Michael once a year or so, just to check in. They talk about equipment, they talk about weather, they talk about prices. Dale always asks how the 8970 is doing. Michael always says the same thing, still starts every morning. There's a moment in equipment decisions when everything looks better on paper. The numbers make sense. The dealer makes promises. The warranty feels like safety. But machinery doesn't care about projections. It cares about whether the part exists when it breaks. It cares about whether the mechanic knows how to fix it without a computer. It cares about whether the engine can run another season and another, long after the spreadsheet stops mattering. Ron Decker made the decision his son wanted in 2012. He let go of what worked because the future looked more efficient. It took 6 years to learn that efficiency is only useful if the machine runs. It took $28,000 to buy back what they should have kept. The 8970 didn't care. It just kept working. For Dale, then for Ron again. It's a tool. It doesn't prove anything. It just starts every morning. And sometimes that's the only number that matters.